But there's this unspoken belief, especially in senior roles, that you're supposed to be the most knowledgeable person in the room, that you earned your way to the top by being the smartest. And when someone on your team exposes that maybe you're not, that can feel like a threat. Leading people who are smarter than you requires you to redefine what leadership even means. At least, what it has meant to you up to this point. I am so glad you tuned into the All Things Leadership podcast, where we decode the challenges leaders face, how to navigate through day-to-day leadership complexities, so you know the smart ways to be the best version of the leader you've always idolized. I had a mentee last week, a senior leader with over 15 years of experience, who brought up a very bold admission during our conversation. And this is an issue that most of you will relate with, either being that leader who faces this challenge or being the person who has had a leader like this at some point. So what did this mentee of mine say to me? He said, I've got this person on my team. She's brilliant, genuinely brilliant, and I have no idea what to do with them. Sometimes I feel she is much better in competencies than I am. Talk about being honest. And every single time someone says that to me, I can see it on their face. It's not frustration with the person. It's something else. It's discomfort. It's the quiet, private kind of discomfort that comes from leading someone who might just be smarter than you. So let's just talk about that today. Because I think this is one of the most important things that a leader can learn, and almost nobody talks about it directly. Here's the thing, nobody really tells you about leading really smart people. It's not about strategy. It's not about org structures or frameworks. It's about something far more personal than that. It's about your own security. What happens when the person in the room knows more than you do? Are you threatened by that? Or are you energized by it? Do you see their intelligence as a resource, or do you see it as a reflection on you? Can you sit in a meeting and let someone else be the smartest person there and be completely at peace with that? That last one. That's the one that really matters. So let me walk you through what I've seen work, because I've worked with a lot of leaders who have been in this exact position. And the first thing that has to happen, honestly, is you have to get over yourself. I don't mean that harshly. But there's this unspoken belief, especially in senior roles, that you're supposed to be the most knowledgeable person in the room, that you earned your way to the top by being the smartest. And when someone on your team exposes that maybe you're not, that can feel like a threat. I remember working with a VP at a tech company, really sharp guy, and he had this engineer on his team who was just exceptional, could see architectural problems that the VP couldn't. And instead of leaning into that, he started micromanaging. He'd question every technical decision. He'd insert himself into code reviews. And within 6 months, that engineer was looking for another job. The tragedy of that situation wasn't that the VP wasn't smart enough. The tragedy was that he couldn't tolerate being less knowledgeable in one specific area. And so he turned a gift into a problem. So what's the alternative? Well, think about a film director. A director isn't the best actor on set. They're not the best cinematographer. They're not the best sound engineer. In fact, almost everyone on that crew is more skilled at their specific craft than the director ever was. And yet, nobody questions who's running the show. The director's job isn't to outact the actors. Their job is to create the conditions where those actors can do their best work. They set the vision. They shape the tone. They make decisions about what the audience needs to feel. And when an actor disappears into a role and delivers something extraordinary, the director doesn't try to steal the scene. They step back, they make space, and they let greatness happen. That's what leading smart people looks like. You're not competing with them. You're curating the environment. Now, practically speaking, one of the most powerful things you can do with someone who is genuinely smarter than you in a domain is ask better questions. Not just any questions, better questions. Most leaders, when they're in a room with someone more knowledgeable, they either go quiet or they try to prove they belong there by making statements. Neither of those is useful. What's useful is asking questions that no one else is asking. Things like, what are we not seeing here? If we were wrong about our assumptions, where would the failure point be? You've laid out the technical path beautifully. What happens if the market shifts? See, the smart person has depth, but as the leader, you bring context. You understand the business. You understand the politics. You understand the customer. Your questions connect their brilliance to the real world. There was a CEO I worked with who once told me something that I think about all the time. He said, "My job is not to be the smartest person here. My job is to make sure that the smartest people want to stay here." And I think he was absolutely right. Because here's what happens when you get this right. Your team sees you as someone who isn't threatened by excellence. They see someone who creates room for them to operate at their peak. And something shifts in the dynamic. They don't just respect you, they're loyal to you. Because you gave them something most leaders won't: permission to be great. And that actually brings me to the point I really want to land on. Leading people who are smarter than you requires you to redefine what leadership even means. At least, what it has meant to you up to this point. If your identity as a leader is built on being the most capable person in the room, then hiring someone smarter feels like an existential threat. But if your identity is built on building a team that does extraordinary things, then hiring someone brilliant is exactly what you should be doing. So going back to where we started, those leaders who would lean in and whisper to me about their brilliant team member, the answer was never about managing that person differently. The answer was always about managing themselves, their own insecurity, their own need to be the expert, their own discomfort with not knowing. If you can sit with that discomfort, if you can hold that space, security takes over. And from that place of security, you don't just lead smart people, you amplify them. And that's what real leadership looks like. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you for listening in and hope that this had added some value. We'll really appreciate if you leave a comment below and let me know what you feel about this. Does this resonate with you? Do you have a different opinion or another strategy that has worked better in your experience? One way or another, let's engage. Speaking of which, why don't you hit the like button and share this with at least one friend or coworker who you think this can be of help. Subscribe to The Learner Abhi on YouTube and Instagram while I go prep for our next episode on all things leadership.